Sasquatches really 10 feet tall? I put this question to the test using actual Bigfoot data, and the results weren't really what I was expecting, but I'm stoked about it. If you're new here, hi, my name's Terrestrial. I created the Sasquatch Data Project, which is basically a massive spreadsheet optimized for data analysis. It's open source, anybody can go download and use it, and in my humble opinion, it's pretty dang cool. I also specialize in Sasquatch statistics and data analysis, so if you've landed here at this channel, that's awesome. I'm glad you made it. Also, before I forget, if you're interested in science-backed, data-backed Bigfoot research, make sure you subscribe to my channel and give this video a big ol' thumbs up. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions in the Bigfoot community: just how tall are Sasquatches? And full disclosure, I personally do not think Sasquatches are as tall as the community as a whole might think. And this idea is purely based off of the data that I've looked at, so let's go ahead and dive into my latest investigation, and we'll see what you think at the end of it. And don't worry, if math and statistics are not your thing, that's totally fine. I will break things down into bite-sized pieces and we'll get through it together. It'll all make sense, I promise. And if something doesn't make sense, feel free to reach out to me either in the comments or over email. I'm happy to answer. Okay, so to kick off this investigation, let's start with what most people think about Sasquatches. Sasquatches are often described as being 8 to 10 feet tall. But here's the thing. What if we could actually test this using data gathered from BFRO reports? And that's exactly what we're going to do here today using two different approaches. First, we're going to look at some footprint data, and then we're going to look into some psychological weirdness that happens when you get super scared. But let's start with the footprint data because this is really cool, and obviously I really love Sasquatch footprints. In 1997, Dr. Wolf Fehrenbach wrote a paper called Sasquatch Sizing, Scaling, and Statistics. Within this paper, he details an equation that he derived from Sasquatch footprints and the associated height of the Sasquatch that made the footprint. So essentially, if you have the length of a footprint, you can estimate the height of the Sasquatch. And this is a pretty common method that's done for a number of primates, including humans. So using this idea, I decided to derive my own equation using the Sasquatch Data Project's dataset. The process of deriving these equations was extremely similar. I used rows of data that contained both a height estimate and a footprint length for the Sasquatch that was seen. I then plotted this data on a graph and fitted a regression line to the data. And the equation of the regression line is what we're going to be focused on today. Basically, you can plug in the length of any footprint and get a rough estimate of the height of the Sasquatch that would be associated with it. And Dr. Fehrenbach derived his equation in an extremely similar way, just with a different set of data. And in today's investigation, we are going to see how Fehrenbach's equation and mine fare when we feed it Cliff Barackman's publicly available footprint dataset. And even though our equations are pretty different, they produced surprisingly similar results. When I ran all of the footprint links through Cliff's public dataset through both equations, this is what I got. Fehrenbach's equation gave us an average height of 7.29 feet, and my equation gave us an average height of 6.90 feet. And I know what you're thinking, those averages are way too small. Where are my 8, 9, 10 foot Sasquatches at? Well, here's the thing. Even with the largest footprints in at least Cliff's dataset, Fehrenbach's equation maxes out at 8.88 feet, and my equation maxes out at 9.13 feet tall. So how big would a footprint need to be for a 10-foot tall Sasquatch? Well, for Fehrenbach's equation, it's 27.8 inches, which is like ridiculously big. And my equation needs a 24.3 inch foot. Also ridiculously big. But to be fair, if I reach into the depths of my brain, I do recall there being some footprints that have been reported that are at least 24 inches long. So if we look at the Sasquatch Data Project's dataset and do not include the footprint links that were used to derive my equation, that leaves us with 115 footprint links to run through these equations and get estimated heights. And when I did this, only one footprint out of all of those footprints reached a 10-foot or more height. And I want to add that that was only for my equation. Fehrenbach's equation did not produce any heights that were that tall. And to make things a little spicier, Only 3 to 4 footprints actually produced a 9-foot tall or more height for the Sasquatch between both of our equations. Okay, let's start connecting all of these little pieces of information together to get a better picture of what I'm talking about. So in a random sampling of heights and footprint estimations, we would expect the distributions of these heights to be similar between the derived heights from footprints and the estimated heights from witnesses. If we're only interested in Class A sightings of Sasquatches that have a reported height from the Sasquatch Data Project dataset, that leaves us with 529 reports. About 17% of these reports indicate the Sasquatch was at least 8.5 feet tall. About 9% claim the Sasquatch was 9 feet tall or more, and 2% claim the Sasquatch was at least 10 feet tall. The footprint data suggests about 8 to 10% of Sasquatches fall within this 8.5 foot or more height range. 2.6 to 3.5% correlate to this at least a 9-foot height individual, and 0 to 0.9% correlate to at least a 10-foot tall Sasquatch. Now, obviously, there's some discrepancy here between the witness estimated heights and the footprint estimates. But I have an idea as to what might be causing this. I'm hypothesizing that this increase of reports of extreme Sasquatch heights, which I kind of classify as anything over 8.5 feet, is likely due to the witness overestimating the height of the Sasquatch because they're super freaked out. There's this thing that goes by many names, but I call fear-driven magnification. Basically, when you're super scared, the stimulus looks way bigger than it actually is. And this is all thanks to a structure in your brain called the amygdala. Now, the amygdala controls emotions, and particularly fear. When you're scared, the amygdala starts sending signals to your visual cortices that then direct further perceptual processing. Basically saying your sense of scaling and size becomes distorted. And studies have found that this can cause you to perceive the stimulus anywhere from 17 to 30% larger than it actually is. And here's the thing, this is happening without the witness or you even knowing it. And I did find, using the Sasquatch Data Project dataset, that as witness fear increases, so did the reported height of the Sasquatch. So basically, to wrap this all together, you know, I'm not really sure if Sasquatches are reaching these 8.5, 9, 10-foot tall heights as frequently as they're reported, and that they are probably typically shorter than we might think. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any 9 or 10-foot tall Sasquatches roaming about. I'm just thinking that they're probably a lot rarer than we might think. Combining this footprint analysis along with this investigation into witness fear, I think it's about time we start reconsidering what we think we know about Sasquatch size. But as always, I need more data. I always need more data. Let me know what you thought about this investigation in the comments. And if you're interested in more science-based, data-backed Bigfoot research, make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. And feel free to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I post weekly. Thank you so much for watching, and stay rad.